Welcome back to another video. I just wanted to take you through the Warzone Season 5 meta for today's video. I know I haven't done one of these in a while, but the Warzone balancing for the weapons has been kind of all over the place lately. So I've tried to make this video several times, and by the time I finished, the information was irrelevant. So I'm just going to take you through my rankings for the different weapons, the different perks for season 5. So the way that I come up with this list is I factor in a couple different things. I've talked about this in other videos, but just to bring it up again, I factor in what weapons I'm getting killed by the most, what weapons I see big time streamers get killed by the most. I also factor in time to kill statistics, which basically takes into account if you hit every shot, how quick you are to kill an opponent. And then also just what's the most popular gun out there? What's easy to use? What's forgiving? What's strong? And so that's just kind of how I determine this list. It's not anything super accurate. It's just kind of something quick and easy to get you caught up if you haven't played in a couple seasons. Um, if you want to get more in-depth videos, there are plenty of other content creators that can give you more statistics. This is just kind of based on feel, as well as what's most popular in the game. So for the ARs, as you can see on the list, the top gun that I have right now is the AK-47 Cold War Edition, followed by the C-58, the FARA, and the EM2. There have been some kind of surprise additions to this list. The EM2 is a brand new gun in season 5, as well as the Grau is kind of making a comeback. Very forgiving, not the strongest, but it's very forgiving. Um, and I know if you haven't played in a bit, you'd probably wonder why the Krig 6 is so low. But it was probably the best gun for most of season 5, and then with the last update, they completely nerfed it into the ground. It's still very accurate, but it's very weak now. So you're going to have a tough time putting people down in small amount of time. So it's probably not worth using anymore. Still very forgiving, but it's kind of not worth using anymore. And now checking out the SMG. So the Bullfrog and the OTS 9 are pretty comparable. The OTS 9 recently got a nerf to its damage range, and that kind of set the Bullfrog above the OTS 9. The Bullfrog also has a very large magazine. It can get up to 85 bullets, but the standard is 50, whereas the max for the OTS 9 is only 40. So that kind of sets it apart right there. Both are still very good, but I would say the Bullfrog is probably the top spot, followed by the Cold War MP5, the MAC-10. Those are kind of been staples for the last number of seasons. But the new gun that kind of came into Warzone was the CX-9. It's a Modern Warfare gun, actually. So it doesn't have the same feel as the Cold War guns, but very good gun, high fire rate. It's got some good range. Not the best mobility though, unfortunately, because it's a modern warfare gun, but it's still fun to use. Um, and I'll show you a couple loadouts for it later on in the video, but definitely usable, especially in like rebirth or even like duos. Trios and quads, you might struggle with it a little bit, but you can definitely use it for the smaller gameplay. Then I also just wanted to touch on the Fennec. Earlier in season 5, it was given a bullet velocity boost. It was supposed to be like a 13.5% bullet velocity boost, and I guess someone from Raven Software accidentally entered in a couple more zeros, so it gave it a 1300 percent increase in bullet velocity. So it was just super overpowered there for a while. I'm honestly not sure if they fixed it. It kind of became more of a meme gun after a while. Um, Kind of just people, messing around with it and all that. So I'll give you a loadout for that if you want to try it some more. I haven't honestly tried it since I've been doing a lot more rebirth lately. So, but I've heard it's still fun to use. It's just got that really high fire rate, and obviously the bullet velocity is insane. Didn't really give it a whole lot more range, honestly. It just made it so that if you do shoot at range, you have to basically lead. Not at all. Very fun gun, but not always super practical, just based on how it's built. Okay, now moving over to the LMGs. Stoner 63 was definitely the top LMG for most of Season 5, but it was also given a nerf. Raven Software has been really putting an emphasis on decreasing the time to kill and making everything more balanced, so there's more guns to use, which sounds good in theory, but it makes it kind of hard to find guns that are good and fun to use if everything's kind of the same. But anyways, the Stoner 63 was at the top for a while. Now I would say probably the MG82 has made a comeback. They haven't buffed it or anything. It's just if you can deal with the recoil, it's still pretty broken. It has the fastest time to kill in the entire game for any weapon. And it's really the recoil is just kind of straight up and down. So if you can deal with it, it's still pretty good. Stoner 63 is still a very good LMG. They're just obviously they're LMGs, so they're slower. They take longer to aim down sight and move around with. So you gotta just kind of deal with that. Now moving over to the snipers, probably the easiest list that I was able to come up with. The Swiss K31 by far and away the best. I think it was either at the end of season 4, beginning of season 5. They updated the reticle for the gun, making it much cleaner, and it's far and away the best sniper. Close range, long range, anything you can think of, it's the best. R98K is still pretty good, but I just more people use the Swiss. You're obviously going to have the people who love the car, and it's still a good sniper. But the Swiss, far and away, they've made it the best sniper. They fixed the aim down sight animation. They fixed the reticle, as I said. So it's just far and away the best. And pretty much those top two snipers are the only ones you're really going to be able to be competitive with. You can obviously use those other ones, but they are just they're not up to it anymore. And then shotguns, not really going to talk about that. They haven't really moved much. It's unfortunate, but shotguns are pretty unusable in this game. It is what it is. They're fun to use, but you can't really use anything more than maybe duos. Trios and quads, they get kind of difficult, especially in Verdansk. You could probably use them in Rebirth a decent amount. But just with where the shotguns are right now, they're pretty unusable. All right, so now we'll go ahead and talk about the perks here. So first off, I'll start in the first perk category. EOD and double time are still going to be your go-tos, but cold blooded is also very usable now, and that has to do with some of the new perks that were added. So cold blooded's always prevented high alert from triggering. Um, so anytime you look at someone within 100 meters, high alert kicks on and tells the person where you're aiming at them from. But it also negates combat scout now. And combat scout is one of the new perks that was added. Basically, it pings people through walls anytime they take damage. So this cold blooded negates that from happening, and a lot of people have been using that combat scout perk, so that can be very helpful. So I put combat scout at the third spot now. um, I see a lot more people using it. I don't know if it's going to be the best, but it's still definitely a lot more usable now. So the second perk slot. So new perk that was added, tempered. So this basically, in the notes of the perk, it says refill armor plates to full with 2 plates instead of 3. Equipping this perk fully restores armor. So basically, your plates are now worth 75 damage instead of 50. You only have 2 plates. You only have to replate twice. It saves you another plate, but it also saves you time, um, which can help you, get back in a gunfight really quick. I really enjoy it, especially on Rebirth. When you spawn, when you pick it up from a loadout, you automatically have full plates, and it lets you get back in the fight a lot quicker. It takes the spot of Ghost, which sucks. Um, but especially on a smaller map like Rebirth, when you're kind of just fighting constantly anyways, it's a really good one to use, and it's a lot of fun. And then also with high alert, so they've recently, I would say, buffed high alert, and kind of nerfed dead silence a little bit. So now the high alert description says your vision pulses when enemies outside of your view see you, which it always has. But now it also says footsteps from players using dead silence are audible. I have not used high alert since this came into effect, because I just love tempered and ghost a lot right now. But this can be a good counter for dead silence. I know dead silence is a huge problem in the game. Basically, people being able to push you and you have no idea that they're coming. So high alert, definitely a good one to use now. Make it a lot more usable, which is exactly why that I bumped it up on my list. I think I had it around 4 or 5 last season, and now it's at the 3 slot, which you could argue that it's even higher up, just because of that counter to the dead silence now. And now we will go ahead and move over to the third perk slot. So, my opinion, amp's still the best. You don't necessarily need to use it if you're using a pistol, especially with how good the amp 63 is, or the Diamatis. You can kind of get away without using amped if you don't want to, but if you're using 2 guns, it's so good to have. You swap weapons so much quicker than without it. Um, but the big one I wanted to talk about is Combat Scout. So I put this one in my second slot. just because a lot of people use it. I think it's kind of overtaken Tracker. I still think Amped is the best, but Combat Scout has kind of taken over that second spot. So the description that Combat Scat has in the game is damaging an enemy briefly highlights them for you and marks them for your entire squad. So no matter where they are, no matter if you hit them with a grenade, one bullet, a flash grenade, anything, it'll ping them through the wall for a couple seconds. Not only for you, but for also your entire squad. Pretty good, especially, it prevents people from being able to hide for a second. You can see, if they run left or right in a building. Very helpful. And a lot of people really don't like that it's in the game. It's basically like a wall hack perk, which I get. But this goes back to when I was talking about cold blooded. If you run cold blooded, it prevents combat scout from being used against you. So definitely a lot of updates with all the different perks. I think it's kind of fun. I wish they would do more of it. Kind of changes up the meta even more, especially because we hadn't got a perk update probably since the first season when they changed some of the slots around for the different perks. But I hope they do more of it in the future, especially with the Vanguard integration coming in. Um, but yeah, so that's going to be your perk rankings for season 5. Okay, so now I'll go through a couple loadouts for all the different guns that I kind of highlighted and wanted to talk about. First being the AK-47 Cold War, very versatile weapon. This is how I use it in Rebirth or Sniper support. Not super long range, but I use the suppressor, the RPK barrel, the Microflex LED. Some people like to use either no optic or a longer range, but for like Rebirth or shorter range Sniper support, this is definitely the way that I like to do it. And then I've got, you can't see it because of my face, but I'll use the KGB stock, which gives you aim down sight speed or aim down sight, walking speed, sprint to fire, just a good overall stock. And then whatever mag you prefer. I use the 45 round speed mag. Sometimes I'll use the regular 45. But that's what I use kind of for the sniper support. Now looking at the more longer range AK build, GRU suppressor, RPK barrel, 3x sight, the Spetsnaz grip, which helps with horizontal and vertical recoil. And then again, 45 round mag. You can use a 60 if you want, just kind of slows you down. Um, but even more recently than the beginning of the season, the AK was given, I think they called it a little bit of a nerf actually, but I honestly think that the recoil is much easier to control now. And that was all they changed. So they kept damage. They made the recoil. They changed the recoil. It said adjusted weapon kick. So I think it's even easier to use now. So that's why I put this one in my top spot. It's a good overall gun with good range on it. And now we'll come over to the EM2. This is kind of more of a sniper support build as well. Agency suppressor, task force barrel, Microflex LED, field agent grip, and the 50 round mag. You can swap out the sight for whichever you want. You can also use a 3x and just change this out completely. The recoil is pretty good on this weapon, and I mean there's a lot of it. So I feel that you kind of need that field agent grip, especially if you're on controller. You might be able to get rid of it and do more aim down sight stuff. Maybe either take that off and replace it with like speed tape, get more aim down sight time, or put a laser, the Tiger Team spotlight on there, give you more movement if you are running it as a sniper support. Um, but if you're going to use it any for range, I definitely put the field agent grip on there and put probably the 3x sight, and that's going to be a good long range build for you. But this again, another very versatile weapon that's kind of a common theme with the Cold War guns. Can kind of change them up a lot and use them for different situations. Now we'll move over to the Krig and the Grau. Like I said, the Krig's not really usable, but it definitely was a major player in the season 5 meta, so that's why I'm putting it in this video. Agency suppressor, the mil spec barrel, 3x sight, field agent grip, and then the 60 round mag, kind of the standard AR build for all Cold War assault rifles. Um, it's a pretty weak gun, but you can still use it. It's still very forgiving. Some people were even taking off the field agent grip and putting on a stock, putting on a grip, whatever you want, but it's not really the best gun anymore, but it's fun to mess around with. And then moving over to the Grau, kind of making a comeback. It hasn't really been buffed, nerfed. It's just kind of been the same, and people are really starting to like it with the minimal recoil that it has. So it's kind of an old build, but monolithic. The Archangel barrel, Commando foregrip, 60 round mag, and then this is where kind of people have been um, kind of torn on it. I see most people using a VLK 3X sight. You can go back to the irons if you want. You're not going to get as much range with it, but you can. That's how the Grau was used for all of whatever that was, season one, two, three, and four for Modern Warfare. Put the laser on, tack laser, kind of whatever you want, but it's a very very good, solid, reliable gun. Not gonna overpower anyone, but it's got good recoil and good handling. All right, now here are some loadouts for the OTS-9 and the Bullfrog. First off, with the Bullfrog, Grew Suppressor, Task Force Barrel, Tiger Team Spotlight, Bruiser Grip, and then behind my face here, I've got the Spetsnaz grip. I don't use the Bullfrog a lot, so I haven't unlocked it fully, but Spetsnaz PKM stock is good, but you want to use the last one when you do have it unlocked. It's the best one. But like I said, I just don't use it very often. Some people will swap out the Bruiser Grip underbarrel for a larger mag if you want. Like I said, the default is 50. That's more than most last magazines for all the other SMGs. So you can play around with it how you want, but I think 50 is more than enough, especially if you're doing duos and even trios, honestly. And then here we go for the OTS-9. Like I said, a much smaller magazine for this one. But I'll use the Grew Suppressor, Task Force Barrel, Tiger Team Spotlight, the again the last stock when you get it, definitely the best one. I still haven't unlocked it yet. But then for this one, you have to use a mag. You got to use the 40 round fast mag. One of the very few fast mags that's actually worth using. I think the reload time is something like second, pretty close to. I think it's 1.1 seconds. Which if you use the regular 40 round mag, it's over 2 seconds. 40 40 bullets isn't a lot, especially for an SMG with a high fire rate like this one. So you want to get back in the fight, get reloaded as quick as you can. So I definitely recommend using the fast mag. You can get away with it, but especially if you're playing Rebirth or something, you have to get reloaded back into the fight as quick as you can. And now over to the CX9. A lot of different ways that you can use this one. Pretty consistently that I found is the CX38S barrel. That gives you the most damage range, recoil control, bullet velocity, and it has a built-in suppressor. It also slows you down. However, though, so I think they do have they have this one where you can do sound suppression and aimed out sight. So it's a much shorter range barrel. I like having the extra range, especially because you can, in theory, run this as a sniper support as well. Use the 5 milliwatt laser, the Merc foregrip for your hip fire stuff. 50 round drum mag, you have to use it. I think the default is 20 rounds or 25 rounds, so you can't really go without it. And the irons are pretty clean, so you could use no optic if you want, and swap that out for sleight of hand, another gun that is vastly helped with the sleight of hand perk. I think it changes the reload time almost under a second. It's pretty crazy, especially with 50 rounds. Um, so it's whatever you prefer. Irons are pretty clean, like I said. But if you want an optic, go ahead use an optic. The reload's really not too bad. I think it's about a second and a half without sleight of hand. And then we'll move to the Fennec. Not really a high tier SMG, but if you want to mess around with it, it's always a good one. I use the ZL Saber muzzle, which is like a monolithic suppressor amped way up. And then I'll use this Apex barrel because if you use the Deadfall, that has the suppressor built in, and you lose a little bit of range as compared to the Apex barrel with Saber muzzle. Commando foregrip, 40 round drum mag, those are ones you kind of have to use, especially the 40 round drum mag. The rate of fire is so fast on this gun that you burn through bullets really quick. I recommend using the sleight of hand perk just because, like I said, you burn through those mags super quick. But if you want an optic, that's what you'll swap out for is the sleight of hand perk, and you can use the 3x or a holographic, whatever you want to use. Because, like I said, It does have pretty good range, especially with that bullet velocity buff that it got. All right, so now moving over to the LMGs. First, we'll go with the MG82, agency suppressor, task force barrel, 3x sight, and the field agent grip. All musts, in my opinion. And then with this fifth attachment, you can kind of go a couple different ways. I use the speed tape just because it helps with ADS a lot. Some people will go either the 125, the fast mag. If you want to run either of those, you can. It just slows down your ADS a little more. You could go with the stock as well. Um, like I said, I just like having the quicker ADS time, so that's what I run with the LMGs. Same kind of loadout for the um, stoner. Agency suppressor. I use the match grade barrel just because I haven't fully unlocked it. I started using the stoner kind of towards the tail end of its viability, so um, I still only have the match grade barrel unlocked. But you want to use the task force when you have it. It has a um, bit more added recoil control in it, as well as just longer range. And then 3x sight, field agent grip again, and speed tape again. But like I said, you can use the bigger mag, the faster mag if you want, or your stock. All decent options. I just prefer to have the quicker ADS time. All right, and then really the only sniper worth using. I know it kind of makes me seem like I'm a little bit of a fanboy, but in my opinion, by far the best sniper in the game right now. The Swiss K31, or as I call it, the K Swiss. Everyone calls it that. Whatever. Um, Grew suppressor, combat recon barrel. Um, I haven't really used any of these other ones. I like the combat recon the best. I feel like I see most people using that, so that's the one that I stick with. The 5 milliwatt laser sight gives you extra ADS time as well as aiming stability. The attachments are all kind of different with the snipers, so you want to make sure to read the pros and cons for each of them. And then I'll use the bruiser grip, which gives you added movement speed and aiming stability. And then the last one I'll use is the drop shot wrap, the flinch resistance, which helps you shoot through getting shot by ARs, LMGs, all that stuff. And then ADS time again. I've been using this loadout since the gun first came out, and not really much has changed with it. So it's definitely going to be the one you're going to want to go with. Okay, so right now this is my favorite class. K-Swiss sniper with the AK-47 sniper support. Pretty much the same loadouts for each of the guns that I showed you, but I love using them in combination. Amped perk, obviously overkill. If I get a second loadout, I'll either go with Ghost or Tempered. And then I use Quick Fix for the first perk, especially on Rebirth, and I just like it in general. But definitely my favorite class to go with. Snipers, with how they're nerfing all the ARs, are definitely meta right now, especially this one. And then having a good versatile AR as a sniper support makes it even better. So this is my go-to loadout. I've gotten a bunch of wins this season with it. Definitely my favorite one. Really appreciate you guys watching the video. Thank you for all the support, all the likes. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you so much again, and thanks for stopping by.